This is the all-new 7-seat Dacia Jogger, here to show that not everything in the world is getting crazily expensive. In this review, we're going to explain why this could be a brilliant choice if you're after lots of room for lots of people for not a lot of money. But before we get into that and tell you everything about this car, if you want to see lots more new car reviews, then make sure you're subscribed to our channel. And if you're in the market for a new car, go to whatcar.com to see exactly how much you could save. So, this is the first 7-seat Dacia that's available to buy in the UK. In other countries, you've been able to buy the 7-seat Logi, but not over here. This car replaces that, and it's also a replacement for the Docker and the Logan MCV. The Jogger gets a big, wide grille with Dacia's familiar Y-shaped LED daytime running lights at the front, and at the rear there's a new vertical light design for Dacia, and they've ditched the badge at the back in favour of spelling out the brand's name across the back of the car. You can probably tell by looking at the front that this is indeed based on the Sandero, but clearly it's been stretched out massively to create a car which has a footprint that's actually very similar to a VW Touran. But the distance between the front and the rear wheels is longer in the Jogger than it is in the Touran. And it's actually longer than it is in the massive Ford Galaxy as well. So that means you've got loads of space in this third row here. An adult can sit back here and still have some room above their head. Legroom, okay, it's not amazing and your feet are set quite high, but it doesn't really feel that cramped considering you're in the third row of a 7-seater. You get 7 seats as standard, and really this is incredibly impressive in terms of how much room is available back here. Plus, you get some handy pop-open rear windows as well. And with those rear seats in place, you get about as much storage room as you do in a VW Touran. But there's no underfloor storage in the Jogger, and you do get that with the VW. But what you do get with the Jogger are some rear seats that you can do quite a lot with. So you can fold them down, you can fold them forwards, and you can even remove them completely. And you don't need a toolbox or anything to do so. They weigh about 10 kilograms. The only problem you might have is finding somewhere to store them. And in this 5-seat configuration, the storage capacity that you have in the boot is actually more than what you get in a Skoda Superb Estate. And if you need even more space and even more versatility, then you get these modular roof rails. So you can basically flip these up and fix them across the roof, so you can stick bikes on the top or use a roof box as well. And it's very easy to do as long as you've got a screwdriver. If there is a downside to the boot, maybe it's the fact that this tailgate is massive, so you need quite a lot of space behind you to open it fully. And the third row seats, they don't fold down neatly and stow away in the floor below them. They kind of sit there a little bit awkward, and if you're loading other big bulky things on top of them, that might be a bit awkward as well. But don't forget, you can remove them completely. And the bottom line is that this is an incredibly practical car. And don't forget, it's an incredibly cheap car as well. So the question is, with Dacias and with everything in life that seems a lot cheaper than it should be, can you tell how cheap it is? Does this really feel like the budget option? Well, up front, this clearly isn't like a Bentley in terms of quality, but it is very much like the new Sandero, which is pretty good. So you get some cloth on the dashboard here, you get some satin chrome highlights around the air vents. It all feels pretty well put together, quite robust, and okay, the Touran and the Galaxy do feel plusher inside, but then they're double the money, so really, this is fine. The seats, though, aren't amazing. They're okay on short journeys, but if you're doing a lot of motorway miles, then at the end of it, you might just be wishing that they were a bit more padded than they are. But the driving position otherwise is fine. And what's good is that you've got these physical dials down here, so you can easily control the air conditioning, the fan speed and the temperature, those kinds of things. And the touchscreen infotainment system is mounted nice and high up on the dashboard, and it's close to the driver, so that's pretty easy to use even while you're driving as well. The entry-level trim misses out on this, but everything else gets it, and it includes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Plus, if you go for the top trim, Extreme SE, then you get wireless CarPlay. That entry-level trim also misses out on an armrest here, so we'd recommend going for it because it's more comfortable. And it also gives you some extra storage underneath it as well. Now, it's not massive considering this is an MPV, but it's more useful to have it than not, obviously. In front of that, you've got 2 cup holders down here. You've got another storage compartment at the bottom of the center console here. The door bins are a decent size, so the storage isn't amazing considering this is an MPV, but everything else about the interior up front here is pretty remarkable given the price. Now, we've already looked at the third row, and this middle row is really good as well. I'm just under 6 foot, the driver's seat's in my driving position, got a really good amount of legroom. Headroom's great as well. You can't slide or recline these seats like you can in some other cars, but still, tall adults won't have many complaints at all being sat back here. This is a proper 7-seater. But the problem is, if you fill your Jogger with passengers and luggage, then you won't be going anywhere particularly quickly, because the car is only available with one engine, and it's the TCE 110. So that is a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine with 109 brake horsepower. And the claimed 0 to 62 time is 11.2 seconds. And that's just with a driver. So that is pretty slow. If it is just you in the car driving, then it does feel zippy enough around town, but it's just really flat from low revs. So you have got to work this engine very hard indeed. You get a 6-speed manual gearbox as standard. And in fact, that's the only gearbox available with the Jogger in the UK at the minute. But it's a really nice gearbox. Like with all the other Dacia gearboxes, it's got a nice kind of mechanical feel to the throw. It's really accurate, nice to use. So that's impressive. But perhaps the best thing about the Jogger on the road is the ride, because it's got a really soft setup. So, okay, ultimately that means if you go around a corner quickly, it doesn't feel amazingly controlled. There's quite a lot of body lean. But it means that things are really smooth. It absorbs impacts from the road really nicely, so you're quite well isolated from all the harsh, rough stuff that you're going over in here. And it generally has a lot of the qualities that you'd want from a people carrier. And okay, a VW Touran is even more comfortable still, but then it's so much more money than this. And that's the thing with the Jogger. If it costs the same money as the alternative cars that it's up against that you might be considering instead, then sure, you would probably be more critical of the interior finish, of how the car handles, of what the engine's like, but it is absurdly good value compared to any other new car that offers anything even remotely similar to what this does. So if you need a practical car and good value is very near the top of your requirement list, then this is a pretty compelling choice. If you do want a Jogger, it's already had an update to its styling. So if you order one today, you'll get one of these new look Joggers. There's 3 trim levels to choose from: Essential, Expression and Extreme SE. Essential is very cheap, but we'd go for mid-spec Expression because that gets the infotainment system, front and rear parking sensors, keyless entry and automatic air conditioning. As for the engines, well, it's nice and simple because there is only one to choose from. But next year, there's going to be a hybrid Jogger. And something else to consider is that in other European countries, you can buy the Jogger as a bi-fuel with an LPG tank. Now, we've also tried bi-fuel versions of the Sandero and of the Duster, and it could make a lot of sense for a lot of people. So, Dacia says if there's enough demand, they'll bring the bi-fuel to the UK. Hopefully, they will do just that. And apparently that's one of the reasons why the third row of seats don't fold directly into the floor, because that's where the LPG tank needs to go. Now, you may have noticed that the Jogger was in the headlines recently because it was crash tested by safety experts Euro NCAP, and it was given just 1 star out of 5. Now, as a standalone number, that looks pretty shocking. But before you strike the Jogger off your MPV shortlist, there's a bit more to it than that. For a start, Euro NCAP's crash tests have become much stricter in recent years, which of course is a good thing, pushing manufacturers to make cars even safer. But it means that a 1-star car today is significantly safer than a 1-star car from a few years ago. And that also makes it difficult when comparing the Jogger with other rivals. Take the VW Touran. That car achieved the maximum 5-star rating, but that was back in 2015. And in fact, that rating is so old now that it's actually expired. If it was tested today, it would likely get a low rating similar to the Joggers. And the final point to make is that the Jogger wasn't severely marked down because of its level of protection in an actual crash. The 1-star rating is predominantly a result of its electronic safety assistance features, because it has an automatic emergency braking system that only detects cars rather than pedestrians and cyclists as well. And it doesn't have a seatbelt reminder for the removable third row seats. But none of that changes the fact that a 1-star safety rating for a modern car is bad, and all manufacturers should be striving to do better than this. So, the best car in the world? No. The best value new car in the world? Possibly. It's hard to think of anything that comes close to the Jogger. It is huge, It offers genuine 7-seat usability, it's pretty decent inside, it's comfortable, and in the context of new cars and the other cars that this is up against, it is staggering value. It's a very, very impressive new car from Dacia. And if you want even more information on the Jogger, go to whatcar.com, where you can read our extended written reviews of every car around, and you can also get a great deal on the new car that you want to buy. But before you go anywhere else, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and tell us in the comments below, what do you think of the Jogger? And if you want to see lots more new car reviews like this, then subscribe to our channel.